This is a meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. It's January 16th, 2024, and it is 2:00. So the meeting can come to order. You want to take roll?
Director Eisenhart?
Here.
Director Eisenhart.
I thought, now, you look a little more Jewish today than usual. Saying that. Oh, my goodness. I am here.
Director Edwards.
Here.
Chair Anderson.
Here.
Members are present.
Sarah, would you check the attendees just briefly? Okay.
The hits keep coming.
Okay, do we have any additions, corrections to the agenda?
None. We do have a revised board agenda. It's sitting next to you and copy of exhibit A here.
Okay, somewhere it is. Yeah, there it is. All right, do we have any public?
Chair Anderson, I see no members of the public.
Thank you. Okay, we can start on our action items. And the first one is the adoption of the December 4th minutes.
Move to adopt. A second.
All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Aye is good. Aye. Thank you. And the next one is the resolution 2024. Rescinding the resolution 2023-15.
You know, I read that and the resolution and the explanatory notes. I literally don't understand it. I have no idea what's the 60-day, 180-day, 40 years in the desert. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let me see if I can help. So good afternoon, Chair, members of the board and directors. So this item before you is actually undoing an action that was taken in the last board meeting in light of additional guidelines from CalPERS. And so this was some research that we did. And we found out that there are restrictions that CalPERS imposes on hiring a retired annuitant who hasn't reached the normal retirement age. And I wouldn't mention that age, but so there is a mandatory 60-day waiting period that needs to be applied before that person can be hired as a retired annuitant, excuse me. So
Let me stop right there. There's no way to waive that.
No, correct.
Okay.
yeah, these are CalPERS guidelines, and I think they have their own law, CalPERS public retirement law, so that stipulates this. So the previous action was to authorize an exception to the CalPERS 180-day waiting period to rehire Mr. Suresh Prasad. Now, since he hasn't reached the normal retirement age, we would need to cancel that resolution. And
So I have follow-up questions. I understand that part now, but can we? What's the efficacy still of the 180-day thing? In other words, when the 60 days is up, can we have a new resolution back into the 180-day version?
Yeah. But there will be time to do that prospectively.
Right. No, and that's the plan.
And if his services are needed, I believe that is the plan.
And sorry. And the second question is, has Suresh already been working and or getting paid and or earning a wage in violation of the rule because we didn't catch it last time?
No.
So all that is wrong, what's wrong is that past resolution has no force and effect, but because it was adopted by resolution, it has to be rescinded by resolution, but there was no action to implement that.
Got it.
So, if I may, Madam Chair, so had he retired?
Yes, effective January 5th. So he retired, and all the other retired annuitants we've had were past the retirement age, so we just didn't think about it. Suresh is 53 and a half, so starting retirement age for the plan that we're in is 50.
Right.
Youngsters. Because you're,
Oh, yeah,
That's it, okay.
that was it.
I don't have any
Yeah.
further questions.
I don't either. You asked them, so if that's it, let's take a vote.
I'll move to adopt resolution number 2024-01, rescinding resolution 2023-15.
Okay, I second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
And just for the record, you're recommending that the board adopt the resolutions. This is a
Yes.
recommendation
Yes,
to the board.
recommend to move to the board
Thank you.
agenda. Thank you. The third one, consider approving a contract with Tierra Plan in an amount not to exceed $8,000 to maintain and provide additional development to the MPWMD Streamflow data portal as a public-facing database web server.
I think we have Mr. Lear here.
Yes, thank you. Good evening or afternoon, committee members. This is, as you guys have seen, we developed the web portal that is a public-facing web interface for all of our Streamflow data. This is envisioned to be a contract that is going to be used to support ongoing support of the web portal and all of the servers and programs as the different components of them need upgrading or updates or program software updates. In addition, if we find other data sources, for example, there's another even additional network of rainfall gauges called the CIMIS stations that exist within the district boundaries that we would like to work with Tierra Plan to bring in so we can serve those out through the web portal as well. So it's also envisioned to bring on other data sets if we deem that they would be useful for public education and or project compliance and operations. And so this is something that likely will just go repeatedly into the budget as long as this is a product that the board wishes to maintain. So it just could be thought of as kind of annual maintenance and or minor upgrades as needed.
I have a
You
question.
first.
How broadly distributed are those rain gauges?
Well, the CIMIS rain gauges, there's some down in Pacific Grove. There's one at the Rancho Cañada Golf Course. I think, Dave, do you remember where some of the other ones are?
Yeah, we have 3 under contract, one at Laguna Seca Golf Ranch, one at Rancho Cañada. And CIMA stands for the California Irrigation Management
Information System, yeah.
Yep. And so originally it was geared to get evapotranspiration data as well. And so the whole idea was you would have these located on cultivated irrigatable land. So the golf course would keep it trimmed underneath. Unfortunately, Rancho Cañada does not do that anymore. So that aspect of the gauge is not of any value, but the rain gauge is still of value. We check on Laguna Seca from time to time. They don't do a great job of keeping the grass mowed underneath the cement station, but they do an okay job of it. So I would imagine that data is not great, but it's at least complete. And then the Pacific Grove station functions in all of its capacity very well because they maintain it. But those are the 3 that the district contracted with the state to maintain. And when they took the golf course out, we haven't found it a new home.
What about quail?
We've talked to quail. Problem is there's more residents, and so they're very protective of their view shed. So
What does it look like? Is it-
Yeah.
Tall
it's-
thing?
it looks like an alien. It's about 10 feet tall with 3 legs and an anemometer on top and a rain gauge and so forth.
See.
You know, it would work, you know, where they run the dogs at
Yeah.
Quail, it would work
The dog
there.
park.
And we talked to them about it. The previous general manager, Max Schroeder, was favorable. The current one, Ty, the Armin, is not as predisposed. We talked to the Preserve about making it a teaching tool and having them maintain the space around it. That never really took off either. And we thought about moving it to
Oh, Rancho Cañada.
Carmel Valley Ranch as well.
Rancho Cañada, they do a lot of teaching about
Well, so
environment.
the original best idea was to move it over to by where the wedding
Yeah.
caterer is, and they were gonna maintain some land.
Mhm.
But with all of the new picnic installation and bathrooms around that lake, Rafael Payan has not been clear as to what they're gonna keep irrigating and what they're not. So it's just kind of an up and in the air situation.
Yeah. Okay, well, go ahead. You had a question.
I do. Am I misunderstanding something? This seems exciting to me, like to have that available to the public.
And it is. So right now, our website's undergoing a redesign. This kind of got out there ahead of the redesign. And so if you were to go in,
Yeah, there's a link. I see it.
yeah, right at the top of the homepage, there is a button that says hydrologic data. And you can go in there. John, share your screen for a minute and just click the button, enlarge the map, and let's just have a look. It's very exciting, by the way, except some of our old school members of the public are having adjustment issues.
So this is a SIMA station, just for people's reference in the brochure there. Is it sharing correctly? No, hang on. There. So this is a SIMA station in this corner here.
Yeah.
And so
Alien.
then what Dave is referring to is
I need to spend more time on the webpage. I was actually waiting for the upgrade before I would. I didn't realize this was.
so here's the link as you land on our homepage. There's a bunch of just links right across the top here. And this is the one, the hydrologic data, which is the URL you were just talking about, Director Eisenhart, in the staff note.
Yeah.
And so then it brings this up, which is the interactable map that Dave was speaking of, where you have direct reporting out of the stream flow gauges and what we're seeing in real time, where you can click and drill into them and get what's been happening in the past, as well as you can go into this and you can adjust the date ranges for what you want. If you want any of the data, you can come over here, you can print a chart, you can download it in formats that you can play with. So
When I'm sitting in my house and I can hear the pitter patter of heavy rain on my roof, I could go, let's see what's happening. And I can do that in real time.
And you can even go up to Choose Ridge, which is kind of between our watershed and the Big Sur watershed.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of a good bellwether of who's getting more, Big Sur or us, and it's usually Big Sur.
Yeah.
And the goal here is to add more detectors to the network. Is that it?
Well, there's a bunch out there that exists, and so John brought them in. So previously, we would report primarily on our own gauges. But when he reduces this map down to the way it just popped up, you'll see all these little flags. He's added a whole bunch more than what we used to have easy access to.
And those are ours?
Some are
Flags?
USGS
And we have
shared with us.
and we have access to the real-time data.
Yeah, we have access to real-time data. So when you're wondering why ASR still isn't going. You can go to the Highway 1 rain gauge, I'm sorry, stream gauge, and you'll see we're just not at 140 cubic feet per second. You can see where like the lagoon levels are. And you'll see the cycling of the lagoon. So if the lagoon levels are up around 12 or approaching 13 feet, that must mean that the lagoon is closed. And if it drops down to, 6 or 8 feet, that'll mean the lagoon is open. And when you see it fluctuate between the two, the lagoon has closed itself with sand. And so as you get more into it, there's some.
I think this is amazing. I mean, honestly, I would want this pulled from the consent calendar because I think the public,
Just to tout.
not for the approval part of the contract, I don't think that needs to be pulled from consent, but I would love John to be able to do what he's doing right now. Because I think that, are you going to be at the meeting, John?
Yeah, I will.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
I just think this is huge.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We, during water supply planning, I just pulled it up on a lark to say, here's the Highway 1 gauge and.
I didn't even know it was there.
Around 87 acre feet, and it needs to get to 140 and you can see it right there.
Yeah.
It is.
And to answer the question, we have 3 rain gauges that we maintain ourselves, and they're due to compliance permits that we needed. But there are these rain gauges that Dave was mentioning. They're part of the Monterey County Alert Flood System. But as you said, Director Eisenhart, we've been working with our consultants that these data are published on the web. So it's the first component of this project was to build the data receptacle. And the next components of that are to go out and find other existing sensors that are creating data and figure out what format they're coming out of and bring them into this so they can all be served. And if you go into this one, it's going to say that this is owned and operated by Monterey County. And so if you want to talk to them about what their data is here, you can go to their data site. You can go in and you can see a table of the data that you've had. And then just to show, there's this tabs here where you have a map. This is a map view. There's what's called the list view. So now I can see every spot in the river and what the flow is, and even what the temperature of the water is. So our fisheries biologists use these to understand and help prioritize fisheries rescues. And then you can see down here, these are all the rain gauges where we had these 3. These are ours. And then we brought these in, and we want to bring additionally in the 3 more CIMA stations and keep growing in that way. There's also something that's called a dashboard where you can see all of the gauges and the river flows all at once.
And all of these gauges, no matter the source, they're all real time. What we see on the web is real time.
The gauges are producing 15-minute data, which and all the gauges are telemetered via cell phone or satellite, depending on if there's cell service out there. And every hour, our internal server reaches out and downloads the data from these.
All right, almost real time.
Yeah. So, but that's also the standard of the USGS. So that's why we chose that.
And
then
what you're saying is like during the threat last winter of Route 68 getting closed at the Salinas River.
Yeah.
And they said, we could become an island.
Well, it said about Highway 1 too.
Yeah, you could go to the Spreckles gauge and look at it. And so when the new chief came on and she said, we're announcing, that everyone should go home by noon tomorrow, you could look at the gauge and go, she totally jumped the gun by about 36 hours. And then by following the gauge, you can go, it's not going to flood. It may overtop its banks, but it's not going to flood the roadway. And so there's fun little games, but we do have customers or, individuals who are experiencing a little bit of data overload with this new system. All they want was their one chart they used to go to regularly. So it'll take some people a while to get back to just, what's most important for them. But from a data standpoint, John went into a similar portal for the Santa Clara Valley Water District back when we had somebody who approached the board about selling water rights he had, or that he claimed he had off a little dam off a tributary of, eventually the Pajaro River. And John was able to go in and pull data to show that there's no way that little tributary ever produced enough flow to match the water right that he said he had. And so, scientists can use the data, hobbyists can use the data. It's kind of neat.
Point out too that, you have this, you can see rainfall within the hour, 3 hour, 6 hour, 12 hour, or the last day, or you can also see your annual totals by kind of toggling through this. So there's quite a bit. The last component of it is there's a database downloader. So if you actually know your sensors and you want a date range, you can go in and you're able to choose your sensors. We want this from these ranges. And then you can just say, get data, and then now you can download a Excel file of the data that you wanted for it. And we also built this because we get quite a few data requests from CSUMB students studying the watershed, since it's so close, and we love to support them. But now we can point them to this, and we don't spend an hour or two putting together specific data requests for them anymore either.
I guess my last question is, if you look at the invoice, it's broken down by tasks and then maintenance 3,000. Do you see the year next, or the 2025 and 2026 being 8,000 still, or just 3,000 after that? Is it just maintenance?
Yeah, that would be a good kind of a annual reevaluation, which I think we could do at the budget process. Right now, we have identified, what Dave was saying is some people have some issues with for example, people want the daily average flow, whereas if you go into the table here, it's going to give you the 15-minute flow. So we've been talking with the consultants of having a 15-minute table and a daily average table that people can click through. And so it's like Dave said, we're listening. We've given our constituents and the public something state of the art, and we've moved their cheese for some of them. So we're trying to figure out what component of it they like, so we can rebuild it back into the new thing. So I think during that, however long that process takes, probably we would want to be doing some major tweaks. The 3,000 is just, for them to be on call in case there's about 5 handshakes that have to happen every hour to keep this thing up and running. And so it's, if it breaks, we can call them and they can jump on the VPN and start going through and seeing where it broke and fix it for us. And as well as, for example, this last year there's a program that we use that organizes and processes all of our hydrologic data called Hydra, and it runs on a terminal server at our offices here. And the terminal server, the operating system, was no longer going to be supported, so we needed to move it to a new server. And so that changed kind of some of the scripting all around that type of server. So it's to have them on call for stuff like that when things that need upgrade because they're going to become obsolete and as a part of the component of the system breakdown, we can have them on a contract to come and fix that for us.
Yeah. Any questions?
So is this 8,000 of new money, or is 8,000 that we have already budgeted for this project?
So the first component of the project has been built and closed. And so that was the first round that we had come to the board and gone and worked with the board. This is new $8,000. And it should be an annual amount. It may not always be $8,000 as we get the product to be what we actually want it to. Then if we want to do a major upgrade or something, that would come as yet a separate contract. So this is in addition to what we've already spent. The previous contract has been closed. It's finished. All the tasks are done, and the budget it did come in under budget. And then this is another additional contract or an amendment to the contract that will cover the scope of maintenance and pulling in of the new data sets. That is new money, but it was included in the current budget.
Okay, because one of my problems I have with it is if it's new, it's going into mid-year, and then we're gonna have to start budgeting, and I would hate to see this wait until we start budgeting for next budget year. So I'm willing to approve this, but I hope in the future y'all start looking at what else is needed and put in contingency a little bit of money. So in case y'all wanted to improve on the project. It's hard for me to sit up there and say, did you go out and get 3 bids? No, you probably didn't because you're using the same contractor. So that's another thing to think about too in the future. So I'm willing to approve.
Hey, question?
Move for approval.
Well, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not opposed? Thank you. I just thought of another location. How about the middle school? They've got lots of grass that's cut a lot and water.
Yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that one.
I was just there yesterday walking the dog. I thought, oh. Wonderful. All right, item 4, the consider adoption of the treasurer's report.
I'll have to warn you that the next series of items might not be as interesting as the one that you just saw. So this is a standard monthly report that the committee has been seeing every month. This report is for the month of November. There are 4 exhibits here. The first exhibit looks at the total cash and investments at the end of November. Exhibit 4B and 4C, that's a listing of cash disbursements for vendors and payroll. And then exhibit 4D is just our financial statements, which is the budget to actual as of November 30th. So I'll just briefly provide an overview for exhibit A, which is the main treasurer's report. We started the month with 21.9 million and ended the month with 22.086. The total cash disbursements of about 1.348 million were made, and this is on the bottom of column 1. If you look at exhibit 4A, we also moved in, I'm preemptively speaking because this was a question at the last meeting. We typically collect deposits in the money market account, and then all the disbursements come out of the checking account. So every month we make a transfer from the money market to checking account, which is the 1.5 million that you see here. Our total fee deposits were around 680,000. So that's exhibit A, and I will skip the other exhibits unless you have any questions. And we would be looking at the financial statement more comprehensively during the mid-year budget process. We might have to make or amend some appropriations at that time. But that's a good time for us to look at everything
So
comprehensively.
when would you be ready for mid-year review?
As soon as the month of December is closed, and we have the final deposits and disbursements. So I want to say last year, I think it might have went to the committee in around March, and so we should be ready this year around March as well.
Whew.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, okay.
I just have a couple little spot check questions. I
Yeah.
can't keep track of all the law firms here. And one of them, this may be better suited for you, Mr. Laredo. Remind me what's Clifton Larson doing? Is that a law firm?
That's accountants.
Never mind. The next
That's the
one,
auditor.
right, the next one was, because I don't remember them as some of the ongoing litigation. That's why I was just trying to figure it out.
Shoot Mahali or Rutan?
Neither one of those, right? So it was other ones. Okay, but we identified one was an accountancy. I should have made a mark.
Yeah, Colantano has been our taxpayers
Yeah, MPTA,
council.
and that's the matter that's on appeal.
And then
Right.
Shoot Mahali's been LAFCO
Right.
and then Rutan eminent domain.
I can't remember where the other ones. And then the last question here is, and time and construction, what project is that?
What was the first name?
Timon?
Timon.
Timon, that was out at the Sleepy Hollow.
That's still being paid?
No, I think we've concluded
We've
it.
closed the contract.
Yeah.
I think the contract is complete.
Okay,
And so
good.
we have taken that out of the contracts list in subsequent.
I know, but this seems like I
think
see.
that was a retainer
Way
payment.
back on November.
Yeah, it's a 5% retainer payment that was paid in November.
All right, and then on PD, on page, last question, and it's a budgeting question. On page 26. I thought that number should have been larger at the very top under current FYI annual budget for professional fees. I mean, just on the Cal-Am litigation alone, I thought we've budgeted more than that. I'm just wondering where that number came from, 455, 100?
Yeah.
Because my recollection was from Cal-Am, we'd budgeted, I think, 600,000 just for that litigation.
Which will be short, by the way.
I'll have to look into the measure, what's flowing into this number, and I can provide more data because this is
I mean, it's
combining a lot of numbers.
right, which I would imagine would have even been even bigger, right? I mean, if professional fees includes all litigation fees. I thought that was a rather small number. I didn't understand that. What's the fiscal year, by the way?
Fiscal year July 1st through June. Yeah.
Oh, that might be why. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not on a calendar year. So
Yeah, but even still, that seems like a small number.
Yeah, well, so it will not include Measure J related,
Will not.
will not.
Oh, well, that explains
So
it.
if you look at the budget, we've never budgeted specifically for Measure J. We've done authorizations from reserves.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to get into let me give you the most simple example. If we had budgeted for the filing of the eminent domain proceeding before having the vote on a resolution of necessity, it would have signaled that we'd already intended to move forward with an eminent domain proceeding. So we kind of every step along the way, we just said, oh, here's the next step. How much budget do we need? And then we come for an authorization.
So, understood, but since there was a resolution and we did go forward with the eminent domain, I'm wondering what the utility is. This page 26. This sort of budget, if it doesn't really include what we know we're gonna need to spend.
I think I need to do a little bit of research, but so these are all operating expenses as far as I know. And then if Measure J is being treated as a project expense, then so operating expenses expire every year. And we come to the board and adopt the budget, and project expenses are for the duration of the project. So whether those expenses are in this line item or another line item, need to dig into that and get back.
Yeah, and maybe we create one now for purposes of budgeting, because we've now gone that far.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think I still want to, so if you go back a page, the very bottom line is legal services. This is pretty much just the budget for delay in Laredo, the 400,000.
Well, I don't.
And so we would just need to create a new line item.
Yeah, even if it's a project line or an ongoing authorization line, but at least it would capture for
Yeah.
budgeting purposes what we think we're gonna, that's all. I mean,
Yeah, that's
and I think that's an important transparency issue, right? I mean, that's the issue.
Especially since we got a budget from the attorneys from Rutan, which is like $1.2 million. So when we came to you for 600,000
$1.2 million for 1 year.
for 1 year, well, soup to nuts, they think, so 18 months. barring delay,
which is
which is
more
it will be a
realistic.
delay.
Well, that's more realistic. I
Yeah.
think that's.
And then we've just got a budget for scope of services from Reftelis at 200,000. So that 600,000 all in, well, 200's out for Reftelis.
When do you want to bring that to the board? Does that come to finance
I think-
administration?
Yeah, I think we're good for now, and we'll put it in the mid-year budget review to try to get it to July 1st. And then we'll put it in the budget for next year to carry us all the way through. Because as you well know, we're not going to get to the bench trial for.
I know,
a year
but
and
don't
a
you
half
want to
to 2
get the revised, now that you have them?
Yeah, but mid-year budget review is coming when?
January, February, so February.
Yeah.
Oh, soon.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it'll just take us through
And
the end of
whatever the
the,
result is, will get you through July 1st.
right.
That's,
that's it? I got no further questions on that.
Yeah,
I was hearing March from,
yeah, I think that's right. You said March on
I was
mid-year.
hearing March and I was hearing January, February, but
Well, the divisions start is really February. So you'll see a mid-year budget
Yeah,
adjustment.
we're starting that exercise pretty soon. with-
since you're new, I'll let you go on this one. But next year, I hope you can close that up a lot better, because you do mid-year in March, in May, we going in for the next budget.
Yep.
So, you know,
And I'll just add that sometimes like jurisdictions want to go later in the year because they have a better feel about how funds are coming in. And so there are like arguments to both sides. And so we may call it mid-year, but we want to be as close to the end so that we don't have to come back to the board and ask for more appropriations before the year ends. So just two sides of that.
okay,
All right, any
Do we need a vote on
additional
this?
questions?
Do we have to vote on this one?
Yeah, you just adopted or receive it.
I move to receive and adopt item 4, treasurer's report for November 2023.
I second it.
Okay, those in favor,
Aye.
opposed,
And that's also,
adopted.
that item is also on the consent calendar, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really a November issue. It's more of the other issues that came up, I hope get raised somewhere, right? I don't want to take it off consent for that reason. You know what I mean, David? Is there a way we can address some of just letting people know there's some,
you can comment on it, even if it's on the consent, you can say, I'm not pulling this, but I'd like to comment.
okay,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have to pull it.
Yeah.
Okay, fabulous.
Once you get the motion on the consent, you say, I'd like to offer a comment on the
Great.
motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5 is the review annual disclosure statement of employee board reimbursements. Fiscal year 22-23.
Yes, Chair, members of the board. So this is also in accordance with California Government Code. It states that each special district shall at least annually disclose any reimbursements paid by the district in the preceding fiscal year. So this is fiscal year 22-23, and typically these would be reimbursements of at least $100, but we have gone above and beyond and listed every disbursement on Exhibit 5A. And this is just for information to the public.
Yeah, questions on this one? 1, 2, well, we could start with the Water Smart Conference meal accommodation. I think I was looking at the one online, but this is the update one. The 602. And then you go down, you got a
602, I'm sorry, where do you see that?
No, that's the third
page
one.
29.
Third row.
The third one down, the
Oh, I see it.
602. We got different costs for about 4 people on here.
Right.
We are not staying at the same hotel, or, you know, I don't expect them to eat the same thing, but
We had different ones taking different Ubers in different directions and different meal locations. Yeah, they're not all identical. I do believe they all stayed in the same hotel.
Okay, that's why I was wondering, because they had one on here, I think it was $961. That's all the way down.
Yeah,
It's-
that's,
Yeah, it's gonna be Kister.
Yeah,
I think she stayed an extra day.
extra day, okay.
Well, she's the one that ordered the Veuve Clicquot at breakfast with
That's
the
right.
mimosas. I know that. I'm sure all of these things have receipt backups, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, when you got different ones, everybody going to the same conference, we're not saying stay at the same hotel or somebody staying on one better or whatever. That's one of my concern. Okay, my next concern, that 1, 2, 3, fourth one down. Mileage reimbursement, who is that for?
so Cynthia is a contract employee, limited term. So she is out in the river.
Okay, she working out in the river. How come she's not coming in here, picking up a vehicle, one of the district vehicles and going out there?
Right, I hear you. I don't have an answer for you.
Well, I think you need to look at that one.
Yeah.
And she could come to the district, pick up a vehicle and go out there. Gas is high, and she really showing me how high it is.
Well, but if she were using a district vehicle, the district would be paying for the gas anyway. right?
Well, the district, yes. Yes,
It would just show up somewhere else, not here.
Yes.
You're right.
yes, but I don't see a person, hey, $467. I think.
She
we
drives
probably-
a super. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
403, 467. My saying is this, come bring them into the district, pick up a vehicle, go back out there. That's a lot right there. That's one of my concerns I've seen on that one. So y'all need to think that one out. And I think I seen some more. Okay, yeah, the rest of them I think is reasonable, but the mileage and staying at hotels concerns me a little bit.
I'll just say that I think we follow the GSA per diem rates. And I'll have to look more closely at our policy, but typically there are maximum rates for meals and I believe accommodation. So we try to stay within that limit.
Yeah, so we'll have to get a little education. It used to be only for the directors, that their travel was capped based on GSA rates.
Mhm.
But then that was removed when we had little things like the group rate at a hotel, like this DC trip. One year, the group rate wasn't available and directors had ended up in other hotels that exceeded the GSA rate, actually exceeded the group rate, but there were no alternatives. And so rather than make them reach into their own pocket, we changed the policy. But I'll walk you through those.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it seems like an extra night, if it's not business related, should be covered by.
Right, we've had that discussion specifically on the Water Smart conference, because there were some folks who went in a day ahead of others, or who stayed a day later. And, we had to look at the conference program and confirm that they were conference related, and somebody wasn't just staying to play blackjack or extra.
I will say
Or
this,
the museum.
I don't have a problem with any of these things. Obviously, it's not very much money at all. I'm not sure what battery dielectric goop is for $2.70, but actually on a visibility side, there are a couple of here where the description of the reimbursement is a non-description. So,
Mhm.
for example, in the middle, and I'm sure Jonathan Lear richly deserved the reimbursement that he got for whatever, but I can't figure out what it is. It just says it's $990 employee reimbursed Lear.
Yeah,
And then below that, Lear expense reimbursement. So I think it would be, I'd ask if you can put an actual label on those. So public knows that it was a hotel or what.
Yeah, and even mine, if you look up one of the bigger ones, in June of 2023.
Yeah, I see.
Well, it was actually 6 months of out of district mileage, a variety of things,
Right.
cell phone.
It's only a few, obviously, but I was just looking at the Lear ones because they're not insignificant, a couple of grand. So it would be probably a good idea to have something somewhat descriptive.
Yeah, that's a good catch because this is a standard report that we pull from our financial system, and the description is what's on the requisition. And I think moving forward, we are like educating everyone to be more descriptive. And also, like, I went back and manually fixed some of these, so it's to kind of preemptively avoid some of the questions, but I think that one was.
Yeah, give you a couple of ones. Well, yeah, if you're able to, are you able to put those in before the board meeting next week?
Yes, we could.
Is that a
We'll
big
take a
deal?
look at it. So what you typically get is, and you can see it, like an employee who goes to a conference.
Sure.
They want their money right away. So as soon as they get back, they fill out an expense reimbursement form. Some of the employees, like myself, who's less desperate to get the money right away, I'll accumulate 4 months or 6 months worth of stuff. And so then you've got a whole laundry list that's in there.
Which is fine. You can.
Yeah,
Truncated
but
description.
you can pretty much tell that you're going to get a good description when it's somebody who just got back from a conference, and you're going to get the conference name, and you can pretty much tie it to that. Some of these guys, like the Goop and the others, they'll, for whatever reason, instead of using the district credit card, they'll reach into their pocket. And so those are usually pretty well described, but
Because it's on the receivers.
yeah.
Anyway, I looked at a couple of the Lear ones, that's all, and that's all.
But when you're planning, like they're going to this Water Smart Conference, in the budget, it says so much when they ask for it.
Yeah.
Is this cost in that?
Yeah. So what we do is we've got lines for staff development.
Yeah.
Kind of looking back to previous annual budgets, so the water demand division is going to have X dollars there. I put in my budget some of the director's expenses. So if somebody wants to go to an aqua conference, I'm picking those up so that they're reflected somewhere. Same thing
Okay.
with mine. I'll try to predict.
Where it cleared up, because when I'm looking at the budget this following year, I'm going to ask probably that question. Is somebody going to this? Is it in the budget already? If it's already in the budget, and we approve it, I'll look at this, and probably won't question it as much. But when I seen that on there, different numbers, and I think you redid this, I think I seen a couple of 966 for the conference for meals, and 2 people had 506. So I'm starting to wonder, okay, are we fluctuating or what's going on? All right, thank you.
So I'll make a motion, but it's gonna be a little bit tweaked, if that's okay. And the motion will be as to item 5, review annual disclosure statements of employee board reimbursements. Move to approve subject to clarifying descriptions where essentially none exist. I think there's only 1 or 2 or 3 lines like that.
I'll second that.
In favor?
I
Aye. Good idea.
feel so useful right now. David, straight face, poker face, you can do it, I know you can. There it is.
Okay. Number 6, consider approval of annual update of investment policy.
Yes, this item is for annual review of the district statement of investment policy. And so the California government code says that the district treasurer may annually render to the legislative body a statement of the investment policy for review. But our investment policy states that the board of directors shall review this policy at least annually. So we're trying to comply with that. And here what we do is we look at the various investments that the California Government Code allows in terms of types and terms. And then we put that in our policy. There's not much of a change from when this policy was approved last January. And if you look at attachment I, you will see the various investment types, the maximum, term, and also the reference to the government code. The only change from last time is we've tried to update some of the references here on for the fifth column. But other than that, the policy stays the same. Our overarching goal here is to ensure safety of principal and liquidity to make sure that we are meeting our cash flow requirements. And once those two objectives are met, then we look at yield. So this policy kind of fulfills that objective. It's just asking that the committee recommend that the board review and approve the district's investment policy.
And you'll find that there's only 4 types of investments.
Yeah.
Where the district has said no, but the state would allow it. And I think that happened during Director Hoffman's administration, where he felt that nobody should be messing with collateralized debt obligations, which crashed quite terrifically in 2008, 17, 18, as well as reverse repurchase agreements and things like that.
Yeah, I saw those.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay. Question?
Move approval. Or it's.
Yeah,
move
no.
accept.
Yeah, to receive, and this is going on to the board, right?
Yeah,
Right.
move accept.
Second,
In favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, we'll move on. I haven't seen this before.
that's what I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
It's a nice summary.
Yeah. Okay, this is the informational items.
I have read them. I have nothing to ask or talk about on items 7 and 8. I don't know if anybody else does.
Michelle, is the item 7 in the packet, the one that you cleaned up after?
Yeah, so you'll see that the list of contracts is less than what you may have seen in prior committee meetings, and that's because we have closed some of the contracts and taken them off the list. There's a little bit of cleanup that we have done for both the contracts and then the next item, Measure share as well.
Yeah, including that one company I sussed out, Timon, among others. No, it's great.
Yeah, Timon should be out, and we'll continue to review this so we have the most active list presented to the board.
So which one did you see?
Oh, from the budget report, it was one contractor that's since finished. Timon was, it's not on there anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this is an updated Exhibit 8A.
Yeah.
Yes.
that one's updated.
And it'll get updated again as I mentioned, we now have a scope and an amount for Reftelis. So instead of just saying 600 for this list of potential consultants, as we get a scope defined, we'll shift the money around.
Can we see that scope letter? Because I'm sure you have some description in there in the closed session. Is that possible?
Yeah. That one's not as interesting as the one you already got, which
Yeah.
was a confidential memorandum.
Yeah, no, I know.
Which all the way at the end had the budget. It's like saving the
Yeah.
$1.2 million for
But
page 6.
My experience, the scope letters tend to be pretty descriptive about where they get the number, right?
Yeah, not in Reftelis's
Yeah.
Oh,
case.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything you wanna?
So I want to cover the board agenda. There's only one change from what was in your packet. Okay. And what's in front of you or was on the table. And that was just, Sarah abbreviated the recommended action under item 12. But I did want to highlight, as has already been pointed out, that all of the items from this agenda are items 2 through 6 of consent. And to Mr. Laredo's comment, you can always comment on a consent item or
Yeah, I think it's
pull it
easier
if
just to
necessary.
comment on it, but I did love John Lear's presentation, and I don't know if that's something that can be
Absolutely.
expanded
Yes.
upon at the,
Yeah, that's cool toys.
and he can do that at the main meeting too, like share his screen and
Yeah.
show the public.
So you don't need to, you're not asking to pull it from the consent.
I can ask at the time.
Or I could just have him, because we've got two things that are going to fall under the general manager's report that aren't pulled out here. Possibly three now that I think about it. We had a groundbreaking with one of our grant funded projects, and I want to get a few photos of that so that you can see it was in a severely disadvantaged community section of Seaside. And so the Department of Water Resources was enthused that we had some photos, and they asked if they could use them in their public outreach activities. So Maureen should be presenting something on that. I have some photos that I wanted to share with you on a subject that I can't remember off the top of my head.
A vacation you took maybe.
And so we could have John just highlight it up in here.
Can you weave that into number 5? No, I'm sorry. Your staff's report.
Yeah,
Refer to-
yeah. I'll refer to the item that was in consent and say,
Right, that'd be fine.
yeah.
Also, is Simona able to answer a quick question? I'm not sure if it's Simona. Who is handling the bird dog and all the emergency relief monies that we had applied for?
Yeah, Simona and Maureen. Hey, Simona, you still available?
I mean, must have gotten pretty much.
Yeah, I'll corral her.
Just the status on.
Yeah, because we did receive award. We had one project where most of the people with their feet on the ground didn't really want to do the project. And it was like, okay, FEMA has approved this, but it's probably not the best way to go about it. What are we going to do? And I don't know where that one ended up, but
Oh, I didn't know that was.
Interesting
yeah.
question.
yeah, it had to do with waterproof. So remember we had a flood and we had water come in from below. So we were going to.
Where?
In the Sleepy Hollow
Oh, yeah.
kind of control building. And so they wanted to waterproof it, but the waterproofing only lasts like 5 years. And it was like, is it really necessary? Do we want to bring in a crew, have them mobilized for something that's not going to last? That we might have to do again. And I don't honestly know the answer to where that ended up, but Michelle and
I didn't realize that funds were coming in with some, requirements on them.
Well, yeah, we had to identify what got impacted and what it would take to fix it or bring it back. And so this was one.
You have to do a proposal to
Yeah.
FEMA, what your details are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, most grant funding comes with a lot of bells and whistles and requirements. And
Lots of strings.
Steel cable. The only other things I want to highlight are, you would get a report on last year's legislative outreach. Probably not as extensive as the prior years. And then we've added a first reading item 12 on here,
Yeah, I saw that.
which is a necessary precursor to issuing a water permit because of the nature of that project. To get a meter set, we couldn't serve it with existing Cal-Am water. So City of Seaside created a little creative way that they can take some of their water as a pumper off the Seaside Basin Now we're delivering water separate from Cal-Am's allotment, let's say, from the Carmel River and the Seaside Basin. And that allows Cal-Am to set a meter. In order for us to then document it, we need an ordinance, an entitlement ordinance. So we've done this in the past for City of Pacific Grove, Malpaso, and others. So that's the first reading. When you get the second reading, there will be a new Finance and Administrative Committee. So we'll just hold off on that. But there will also be then a draft amendment to the Cal-Am water distribution system.
And Amy, any action on an ordinance has to be by roll call vote. We'll remind you at the time.
Thank you. You'll have to.
And then finally, at water supply planning, this item 13 was elected to move forward to the full board. And we should have a rough budget. The concept is getting a third injection well at the aquifer storage and recovery site. And we are working on a field trip
I know, I want the field
because
trip.
he needs the field trip too.
Really, you waited for him? I've been asking one for like 7 months.
Yeah, you have.
I have no doubt.
So where's you mentioned something about, oh, I see it. Never mind. I won't even finish my sentence. Unusual.
All right.
Okay,
That doesn't.
that does it.
That does
Thank
it.
you very much. The meeting is adjourned and it is 3:03.